Hello, today we're on 1.05 Geometry Notes, and we're going to talk today about perpendicular bisectors and writing their equations. But before we start doing that, I want to review just your different forms for writing the equation of a line, and then we'll review some of applying them as well. So the first one is slope-intercept form. And that is if you have a slope, M is your slope, and a y-intercept, which is your B. Next, we have point slope form.
Yep.
And point slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So that's if you're given a slope, which is m, and a point, which would be x sub 1, y sub 1. And the last one would be standard form, and that's ax plus by equals c. And for that, a, b, and c should all be integers. Okay, so those are your three different forms for the equation of a line. Let's do a couple of examples. So first one is write the equation of a line in standard form that is parallel to y equals 1/4 x plus 5 and passes through the point 1/2 -3. Okay, so a couple things you need to know here. So parallel lines are always going to have the same slope. So you need to be able to find your slope from your equation. We want a parallel line to that. So the slope, this is in the form y equals mx plus b, which is your slope-intercept form. So your m is the coefficient of x, so that's 1/4. So your new slope is also going to be 1/4, so it's exactly the same. And now we want it to pass through the point 1/2 -3. So we are typically always going to start with point slope form. The only time you wouldn't start with point slope is if you were given, here's the slope and here's the y-intercept. Then I would use slope-intercept form. But pretty much every other time, we're going to use point slope form to do it. So we've got our slope and we have a point that it passes through, which is right here. So we have our point and we have our slope. We're just going to substitute in now. So y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So we have y minus, and this is going to be your x sub 1, y sub 1, y minus -3. So that's the same thing as y plus 3 equals our slope of 1/4, x minus our x sub 1, which is 1/2. And we were asked to put this into standard form. So right now it's in point slope form. So I want to continue to simplify this. So I've got 1/4 x, and then I'm going to distribute this. You can use your calculator, or you can just use your head. Using your head, you multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. Now, to get into standard form, we don't want any fractions, and it makes it easier to rearrange if we don't have the fractions. So I'm going to take this entire equation and clear out my fractions. So I'm looking at all my denominators, and this is something you should have learned in algebra, where I have a 1, a 4, and an 8. Think, what is your common denominator of 1, 1, 4, 8? And that would be 8. So I'm going to multiply it by everything through by 8. So 8 times y would give me 8y. 8 times 3 would give us 24. 8 times 1/4, so remember this is like 8 over 1, so 4 goes into 8 2 times, and then 8 goes in 8 times 1/8 would give us just -1. Now again, I want standard form, so I want all my x and y terms on the same side. So I'm going to keep 2x positive, and I'm going to subtract the 8y over, and then I'm going to add my 1 over to this side over here. So I'm going to do everything all in one step. So I'm going to get 2x minus 8y equals 25. So everything A, B, and C are all nice integers, and that's what our answer would be in standard form. Number 2, write the equation of the line perpendicular this time to the equation 2y equals -6x minus 10 and passes through the point -1/3, 3/2. And put your answer for fun in all 3 forms, just to practice being able to move between all of them. Okay. So first I'm going to take this equation of my line, which is 2y equals -6x minus 10, and I want to get it equal to y. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. So I get y equals -3x minus 5. Now that I have it in slope-intercept, I can easily tell that my slope is -3, but I want to find my perpendicular slope. So parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular slopes are the opposite reciprocal slopes. So you're going to flip it and negate it. So I flip it to become 1/3. It was -3, so now it'll become positive. So now let's go to the first format, which would be point slope formula. So y minus my y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So I'm going to take this, I'll label as my x sub 1, y sub 1. So y minus 3/2 equals our slope, which is positive 1/3, times the quantity x minus 1/3. So minus a negative becomes a positive. So that right there is point slope form. Now, to get to our next forms, we're going to distribute our 1/3 into the parentheses here. So this is point slope form. So now I'm going to distribute this into the parentheses. So you get plus 1/9. Now let's clear out our fractions at this point. So I'm going to look again to see all my denominators. And I've got a 1, 2, 3, and a 9. So what number would they all go evenly into? And if you can't figure it out, you can always just multiply all of them together. But 18 would work for all of these. So that gives me 18y. 2 goes into 18 9 times. 9 times 3 is 27. 3 goes into 18 6x times. And 9 goes into 18 2 times. Now, at this point, I would probably go to standard form next. So combine your like terms. So I'll subtract over the 2 here. And we get 18y minus 29 equals 6x. And then subtract over your 18y. So we'll get 6x minus 18y equals -29. And that's our standard form. And our last form will be your slope-intercept form. So I'll take it from here. And And I'm going to keep my negative 18y over there, subtract my 6x, and then divide everything by negative 18. So I'll get y equals, my negatives will cancel, 6 over 18 reduces to 1/3 x. Negatives cancel again, so positive 29 over 18. And that would be your slope intercept form. And that's all three forms for that one. So again, parallel lines have the same slope, perpendicular, opposite, reciprocals. The next one should be pretty quick, but a little bit more challenging conceptually. Write the equation of a line parallel to x equals -4, passing through 2.5 and 2.5, 8.3. So for this one, actually the fastest way here would be to do a graph. So we're going to graph x equals -4. And let's plot the point 2.5, 8.3. So I'm going to go over 2.5. I'm just going to call this 8.3 up here. So if I wanted to draw a line parallel to this dotted line at x equals -4, it would have to be another vertical line. Well, what's the equation of that vertical line? I know this point is 2.5, 8.3. So the x coordinate it's passing through is 2.5. So the equation for the vertical line would be x equals 2.5. Okay, so that's it for our review of writing equations of lines. Now we're going to get into the newer part, which is writing the equation for a perpendicular bisector. So perpendicular bisector, two words, we've got two main conclusions. Bisector. So for perpendicular, you're going to be thinking negative reciprocal slopes for perpendicular. So slope formula. And bisector, you should be thinking segment bisector, which gives you a midpoint. A segment bisector splits another segment at its midpoint. So write the equation for the perpendicular bisector of the line that passes through points 9, -3, and 3, -6. So just so you can get kind of an idea of what we're talking about here, I'm just going to do a little bit of a sketch on a graph. So if I plot the point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, -3, and 3, -6. So those are the two lines that were given. That's the segment. The question is asking us to come up with the equation of the line that would be a perpendicular bisector to that line. So perpendicular bisector means it has to go through at the midpoint. So we need the midpoint here, and we want it to be perpendicular. So this pink line right here is what we're trying to come up with an equation for. In order to write the equation of a line, you need a point and a slope. So if I can find the midpoint of this red line, then I have a point on the pink line. And if I can find the slope of the red line, then I could say, okay, well, this slope of the pink line is the opposite reciprocal slope, or this dotted line. So I can take the slope and then find the perpendicular slope by taking the opposite reciprocal slope. So first, let's start off with midpoint, and that's probably the part of these problems that most students forget if they forget something. So we'll write out our formula, which is the average of our x's and the average of our y's. So our 2 points, we're taking x1, y1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So I'm just substituting into our formula. 9 plus 3 over 2 and negative 3 minus 6 over 2. So that gives us 12 over 2, which is 6, and negative 9 over 2 we'll just leave as negative 9 over 2. After midpoint, next I'm going to find my slope. So our slope formula, m stands for slope, is change in y over change in x, or y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So if I take negative 3 minus negative 6 over, and I switched it here. Again, it doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. So if I took the negative 3 first, then I have to take the 9 first. So we have negative 3 plus 6, or 6 minus 3 is 3, and 9 minus 3 is 6. So that gives me 1/2. But we don't want that slope, so I'm going to move on here to finding my perpendicular slope. And the perpendicular slope, I'm going to flip it, so it becomes 2, and then I'm going to negate it, so it becomes negative 2 for my new perpendicular slope. And the last thing we're going to do is write the equation of the line. So midpoint, slope, perpendicular slope, and then the line. And again, we're going to use our formula. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So now we are using our new point that we found right here and our new perpendicular slope. So I've got y minus negative, so that's going to become a positive, 9 over 2 equals my new slope of negative 2, x minus 6. So that is an acceptable form to leave your line in, or you can put it into slope-intercept or standard, depending on what was asked of you. So for this one, just to practice getting them all, knowing how to convert it between the 3 different forms, distribute your negative 2, and then you can clear out your fractions again here if you'd like, so by multiplying everything by 2, or you could use your calculator and subtract over your 9/2. It's up to you. But you could get y equals negative 2x plus 15 over 2. And that would be your slope-intercept. And then your standard form would be 4x plus 2y equals 15. So I didn't go through all the work with those. So here you would pause the video and just go through how to find each of those and check it with my answers. And we'll do one more of these. So number 5, write the equation of the perpendicular bisector of the line passing through 7, negative 2. Rewrite that 7, negative 2, and 4, 3. So again, you want to find your midpoint. You want to find your slope. You want to find your perpendicular slope. And then you want to write the equation of your line. So pause the video here, find all of these things, and then I will give you the 3 different versions that you could get, the 3 different forms for your line. Okay, so point slope, you'd have y minus 1/2 equals 3/5 times the quantity x minus 11 over 2. So this would be point slope form. You would have y equals 3/5 x minus 14 over 5 for your slope-intercept form. And then you'd have 3x minus 5y equals 14 for your standard form. Or if you had 6x minus 10y equals 28, that's fine too. You multiply the whole equation by 2. Okay, so if you need help on this, again, go back to number 4 for help. And if you have any questions, let me know. And I hope to see you guys soon. And pie out.